All right, so it is currently 5:07 p.m. on Thursday, October 15th, and I'm calling to order this meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Castillo, Miss Bailen, Miss Chisel,
Here.
Miss Grayling,
Here.
Mr. Charnett,
Present.
and Chairperson Klein.
Present. Melissa, do I need to point out that Anne is no longer on the commission? We'll talk about
Okay.
that. So in terms of quorum, that might be helpful.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so have there been any public comments submitted? No, okay. So we'll go first to the consideration, review, and approval of the minutes from our 17 September 2020 meeting. Are there any for public comment?
I don't know, does he want to ask?
Oh, I thought he was here to speak on the case.
I'm not sure if he wants to do that as well.
Did he submit it in time?
No, he did not register, but he's here.
Okay, well, how can I ask him? I'm not supposed to move.
No,
Sorry, guys. Coronavirus.
So what is happening?
Oh, sorry, Tim. Mr. Maurer is here, and I thought he wanted to speak on his case, but maybe he wants to make public comment. So
Oh, okay.
That was my error.
Okay, and someone's checking.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
he said only if he doesn't have public comment.
Okay.
And he's here to answer questions.
Okay, so no public comments. Sorry, guys. So we'll just go ahead and deal with the minutes. Does anyone have any changes or emendations to the minutes from the 17th September meeting?
Yep.
Good.
I can always be counted upon, right?
That's right. Go ahead.
Okay, on page 2, down at the bottom of the page, there's the last 2 paragraphs. And the first one that I've got is basically the second line where it says, Ms. Simpson provided property background and stat the subject property is eligible. So stated, okay. The next one is the last line of that paragraph where it says, subject property has been covered with aluminum siding, but still has the slate roof, chimney, and original windows. Okay, the next paragraph, it should read, the slate roof is in need of a repair. And then the one after that, the certificate of appropriateness indicated the slate roof is being replaced with different material. And then there were bids estimates from TJ's Roofing. R should be capitalized, it's a business name. And I would say instead of saying Mr. McCumpsey, it should be McCumpsey Roofing because that's the other business name. And McCumpsey is always spelled M little c, big C, U-M-S-E-Y. So we leave out the S or the E in that name every place that we've got here. So I'm going to just make sure that that is correct. Go on to the next page, page 3. We are in the middle of the page where we have the paragraph that starts out, Ms. Casey Bike introduced herself. So in that paragraph on the 4th line, again, Mr. McCumpsey's name is misspelled both places. Then we go to page 4, and in the 4th paragraph down, it says Ms. Sherry Grayling made a motion to approve funding instead of to approved. And then after that one, the next paragraph is Ms. Sherry Grayling encouraged Ms. Casey Bike to contact, because we omitted that, the Old House Society in order to salvage. And the next one is the third paragraph from the bottom of that page, where it starts out, Chairperson Klein indicated, and at the end it should say, let's see, the historic structures downtown would benefit from enhanced accessibility, and the commission would be able to have more control on the enhancements if applications came through the Rust Grant. Next paragraph, we are at the third line of that. And so, with the beginning of that sentence is, there is an importance to preserve the downtown and make the compliant enhancements to, instead of saying attack, I would say facilitate reuse of the buildings instead of encouraging potential businesses, and I'd strike building and put to build new buildings in other parts of the city. Did we follow that?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. That's it.
Very good. Champion effort.
I
Anyone
have
else?
Yes.
Ms. Giselle.
Yes.
Okay.
Page
I
3.
do have, oh, go ahead.
Page 3.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph where it says Miss Casey Bike. Go down to the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentence, and it says Miss Casey Bike indicated a sense of urgency to safety concerns. I'm sorry. Urgency to replace the roof as there is plaster falling and wood damage due to its.
Good job. Yes. I missed it.
All right. And then the one after that is, on another note, Miss Casey Bike shared safety concerns with the brick streets, specifically the 800 block, and would like the city.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you,
Hmm.
George.
Just at the top of the minutes, just underneath the www.citybloom site, there's a spot that says this meeting was conducted, and I would suggest that after conducted, it be amended to say pursuant to amendments to the Open Meetings Act enacted in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, allowing for both virtual and in-person participation. Because the governor's order is no longer enough, it has been superseded by amendments to the Open Meetings Act. So it's
Okay.
a small change.
You've got that in recording, Katie, so you can look. Okay, good.
Yeah, and I sent Katie a suggested amendment
Okay.
that was substantially the same, a couple different words, but
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Georgina, was there one more?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I was checking just to make sure, but I think we got them all.
Good job, ladies. Thank you. Thank you so
You're welcome.
much. Awesome. Okay, so do we need to have a vote about approving the minutes?
Oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Another one?
I don't think she covered this one. Page 3, third paragraph, last sentence. There may be a third option for funding, which could change the scope of work.
Page 3.
Which paragraph?
1, 2, 3, the third last sentence.
Yep. Yes, it should say which instead of with.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Good.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I so move.
I second.
Okay, we have a roll call vote, please.
Yes. Mr. Castillo, Ms. Chisel,
Yes.
Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Mr. Charnett,
Yes.
Chairperson Klein.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to our regular agenda, and just note, due to COVID-19 social distancing considerations, this meeting, as I said, is being held virtually. Those wishing to testify or comment remotely regarding a public hearing listed below, are listed on their agenda, must register, and we've got some that have registered in advance. So the first item is BHP 2819, public hearing, review, and action of a petition submitted to the Franklin Park Foundation for the nomination and designation of the State Farm Building at 112 East Washington Street, circa 1925 to 1947. Schaefer and Houghton Architects, contributing D2 Downtown Transitional District to D2 with the S4 Local Historic District Zoning Overlay Ward 6, which has been continued to our meeting from September. And it's my understanding that there have been no emendations to the record, and therefore we will need to continue this further. Is that correct, Casey? Okay, not Casey. Katie. You get everyone. Give me a break today. Okay, so I think, do we need to make a motion for that, or can we? Okay, so we need to have a motion to continue to the next meeting, which will be November
19th.
19th.
I move then that we continue case BHP 2819 to our next regularly scheduled meeting, which will be October 19th, 2020.
November 19th.
Oh, yes.
Are you coming back in 4 days, Sherry?
November.
I will second that.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Castillo, Ms. Chisholm,
Yes.
Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Mr. Charnett,
Yes.
and Chairperson Klein.
Yes. Okay, so we'll move on to BHP 2220, consideration, review, and action on a petition submitted by City of Refuge Ministries for a Rust grant in the amount of up to $10,000 for masonry repairs and replacing the flat roof on the front tower at 401 East Jefferson Street, circa 1888, Romanesque Revival in Ward 4. So as we go into this one, I wanted to share with you all that we'll have a city, should you want to do the staff report first and then let me read after that, or would you want me to read the letter first? The petitioner is not able to be with us, but we have an email from that petitioner that I can read to everyone. But maybe it's best for you to do your city report first, and then we'll follow it up with his words.
Thank you, Leah. We can do that. And we do have Frida Haywood is on the call as well to represent City of Refuge Ministries. So the applicant is requesting a rust grant to repair and tuck point the facade of the church. Church is built around 1888 in the Romanesque Revival. We're not sure who the architect is, although it does have similar features to work done by Pillsbury that we've seen in other buildings. So, but we're not sure about that. The property is in our downtown transition district. It's currently used as a church. In addition to the masonry repairs, the applicant is also asking for funding to assist with fixing the roof on the front bell tower. It's a flat roof. It's not visible from the street, but repairing the roof would facilitate and extend the life of the building. There are a number of different quotes that were provided, and in regards to the work proposed, staff doesn't have a specific recommendation about a quote. However, we would recommend that there's no chemicals or power washing used on the brick. Just because that can damage the structure and damage the actual bricks. And it would be keeping in line with our architectural review guidelines to ensure that there's no abrasive methods used to clean it and no chemicals used to clean them. So other than that, staff's recommendation is that, the work meets our criteria for a rust grant. We're supportive of the work. Any new mortar or new bricks that are used should match the existing in size, color, and texture as close as possible. The commission may have a specific recommendation on a type of mortar, but our architectural review guidelines say a cement lime mix. Since it is technically a non-owner occupied property, like residential property, the project will require prevailing wage. So I'm not sure if the bids reflect that, but if not, then the bid may need to be adjusted to show prevailing wage as well. And I can answer any questions you might have. And then, as you mentioned, Chairperson Klein, we received an email earlier today from one of the pastors at the church who was speaking in favor of it. And then Ms. Haywood is also on the call to answer questions.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and read this letter from Mr. Bennett, and then we'll have Frida maybe help us to answer some questions. So the letter reads, "Hello, my name is William Bennett. I am the senior pastor of City of Refuge Ministries. Unfortunately, I have an engagement that is keeping me from making verbal comments, so please accept this in written form. Thank you to the committee for considering our application for the Harriet Fuller Russ Facade Grant. Our ministry has been serving Bloomington for over 40 years and have been at our current location at 401 East Jefferson Street for close to 10 years now. We love being in the downtown area where we are easily seen, and our location makes it easier to serve the Bloomington community. When we moved to the Jefferson building, it was almost 10 times the size of our prior building. The expense to remodel, renovate, maintain, and pay bills increased drastically, but it was all worth it to us because it allowed us greater space to serve and help our community. Out of our church building, we have served thousands in the Bloomington community with food, clothes, financial assistance, school supplies, and more. We've held many city and community meetings at the Jefferson building, including many public safety and community review board meetings, in which I'm currently a member. We see our congregation in the building as an instrumental part of downtown, and thus we seek acceptance of this grant. The interior and exterior of the building needs a lot of work, and our congregation and trustee board is committed to getting it done. We have already completed many additions and the renovation to the building throughout the years. This grant will help assist in the current roof and masonry work being done. This building has been standing since the late 1800s and has been a place of much community service. We believe the integrity and historic value of the building to the Bloomington community. Again, thank you for your consideration, William Bennett, Senior Pastor." Okay, so Ms. Haywood, are you with us?
I am.
Great, thank you so much. Do you have any opening comments you'd like to make?
No, I'm just in agreement with the letter that our senior pastor had written. And we do appreciate the consideration for the grant because, as he stated, there is such an enormous amount of work that goes into the upkeep of that building, especially it being an older building. And we do consider it a part of the cultural and historic, property of Bloomington. So we appreciate the consideration.
Thank you so much. So any members of the commission have questions or comments for Ms. Haywood?
Could I ask that she be sworn?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I apologize. Ms. Haywood, as you're giving testimony before this commission, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, go ahead. Paul, I know that was good questions. Anyone? I want to just be sure that I understand, Ms. Haywood, the actual, because we have a lot of quotes here, so I want to be sure I understand which ones that we're actually referring to. So is this the quotation in the grant, are you quoting from the Autobaum company as the primary work and then one of the two roofing companies? Is that correct?
Yes, and then let me kind of expound on that a little bit. The roofing company, Aloha Roofing, that church has about 5 different roofs, 3 flat roofs and a shingled roof. All of them have been replaced. We have replaced all of them except the flat roof. But in regards to that one, Aloha can be crossed off because the flat roof was in such bad shape that every time it rained, it would come inside of the building. And so it was causing damage to the interior walls where we currently have flaking and peeling. And so Aloha, they completed that last Friday, actually, this past Friday. So the Aloha has been completed.
Okay. So
Uh-huh.
did the estimate of cost change for the final?
It did, because the plywood underneath was rotted. So they had to get new plywood, which was an additional $450. And then he mentioned something called a scooper. And we have pictures of all of that. It was a drain that was partly broken, and it was allowing water to come in through the bell tower and down the walls. And they replaced that, which was an additional $755. And that brought the total cost to $4,075 versus the $2,875. But it was urgently needed.
Understood.
So can I just ask a question then? Are we saying that the roof work has already been completed?
The flat roof work was completed as of Friday.
Okay, so basically now all our project is that we are really considering is the brick work.
Yes, the masonry work.
Because I believe we are kind of under the constraints of if the project has been completed, or actually if it's even begun, we cannot give money for something like that. But the brickwork, since it hasn't been begun yet, that would be our concern here.
So Autobahn is waiting. Now, we've had some masonry work done, but Autobahn is the one that we're looking to do it, because they have done some for us before.
Okay.
And they do an excellent, they're quite expensive, but they do excellent work. But so Autobahn would be the one that I would ask you all to consider. RJB Construction, they were another one. And actually, when I called, we had the hardest time finding mason people to come and even give us a bid. RJB Construction did come and do some work recently, but there again, we had some holes that needed to be stopped. But Autobahn has not started the work that we need to have done. So Autobahn would be basically the only contractor on that list now that we would be looking at.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification.
Yes.
I was going to ask some questions about the roofing materials that were applied, but it's sort of a non-point anymore. Seeing as that it's a peel and stick. Generally, I prefer a TPO over a peel and stick. Peel and stick just does not last as long. But if you're not seeking money from the commission, it doesn't really concern us. You're welcome to put on whatever you like. As far as the brickwork, of course, the biggest question that I always ask is what kind of mortar is being used.
I submitted, I don't know if that was included in the quote from Autobahn, but I know they took pictures, and they're usually very specific with the type of material. I can pull that up to see, but I did submit that with the grant. So was it not referenced? I'm going to see if I can find it.
No, the type of mortar is typically not referenced on these things.
Oh.
Basically, where I go is that you need either a type O or a type K masonry mix for mortar. The idea is that the mortar should always be softer than the brick when it gets tuck pointed. Autobahn knows this stuff pretty well, so I'm not as concerned as I would be with somebody else. And from a historic perspective, one of the biggest questions that happens right after all of this is, are you going to seal the brick?
Okay, is that a question you're asking us?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't aware of it needing to be sealed. So is that something that the masonry people do?
It is, and my concern is actually when you seal the brick that it can deteriorate the brick faster if you don't use the right kind of sealant. I'm not suggesting that you need to seal it, only asking if you had a plan to.
Okay,
Paul?
no, that was,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, no, you go ahead.
Okay. I did find there is one reference to what kind of mortar mix, but it was from the United PM Services quote, and it was type N that they mentioned. N as in Nancy.
And type N would be too hard.
And that's kind of what I was thinking, yeah, from what you had talked about before. So I
Remember,
guess what,
okay, if
what
it's
you're looking
okay.
for, is some, yeah.
P-
So that's the
PM
only-
is, I'm sorry. PM
I was just saying,
is,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, PM is no longer included because before any work is done, our insurance company requires a certificate of insurance, and their insurance company would not give them that for the height. They would have to go.
Okay,
To
thank
do
you
the
for
brick.
that. So Paul, as what you were saying about sealing is that if there is going to be a process of sealing, we just want to be able to advise on the type of sealing.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a critical component. I cannot tell you how many buildings I've seen with the inappropriate sealer applied, and it deteriorates the brick and the mortar just exponentially faster.
Okay.
Something that we could do in terms of approval is to approve up to a certain amount. And so if the actual work, as you saw with the roof, the actual work comes back as a bit more expensive, that would be a bit covered in that way. And so if ceiling is added, we would just maybe put the predicate that they have to get advise and consent on this type of sealer.
Yeah, absolutely. One other question that I would ask, Ms. Haywood, was Autobomb or someone able to locate, I see there's some replaced bricks that are going to be part of this work. Someone able to locate a matching brick?
Autobomb, I believe, stated that they would be able to do that.
Good.
Good. It's a red brick, but red brick is not red brick is not red brick. They all vary slightly. So you just have to compare that kind of thing. And I have hundreds of brick samples in my office, and I can just tell you that none of them look one like the other. So it's one of those things, once you fire it, it's got to look exactly like it. So my concern was just that they would have to find a custom brick to match, and custom brick can be very expensive to produce.
I can certainly ask him about that because I know in the quote, I believe he indicated about 75 bricks needing replacement, and I should have had that file pulled up. But I can ask him about that again just to ensure. But I also want to make sure I understand the type of mortar. You said type O as in Oscar or K as in King, correct?
That's right. If it's O or K, it's okay with me.
Okay. And then you mentioned sealant. It had to be a certain type of sealant if we do that. Can you repeat?
Yeah, that's correct. There are specific types of sealant that are appropriate. They always need to be tested on the brick before they become something that gets applied just generally. But typically it's either a silane or a siloxane blend. They should not be something that's like a wax or a coating that gets thick on the surface. It should always allow the brick and mortar to breathe.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
It's not, but that's not required. So Mr. Charnett is saying if Autobomb were to be applying a sealant, we would want to ensure that it's the type that he suggests, but it's not a required part of the process.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Autobomb should know this. They got 125 years of experience doing it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good. Anybody else have questions?
So I guess I would think that what we have to do is talk about if we do approve this, we have to specify then with the addition of type O or K mortar as a prerequisite of that.
Right. So I would suggest a motion that has that as a prerequisite, but also allows approval up to $10,000, given that there could be some variance over such a large project. There could be some variance in the costs.
I will so move.
Okay. We'll send Sherry Sherry, would you second that?
Yes.
Second.
I second
Oh,
that.
there's Georgine. I didn't know if you'd already left us. Okay, so what we have before us is an approval of the bid from Autobomb with the contingency that O or K style mortar be used. And if any sealant is used, that you ensure that it's not a wax-based sealer, and that you are approved up to $10,000, given any variance in the final cost.
Sounds good.
Matching, right? Okay, so can we have a roll call vote on that proposal?
Yes. Ms. Chisholm,
Yes.
Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Mr. Charnett,
Sorry, yes.
and Chairperson Klein.
Yes. Okay, so BHP 2220 has been approved. Thank you so much, Ms. Haywood, for joining us. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to the city.
All right, thank you so
right.
very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Good luck. It's a big
Thank you.
project.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on to BHP 2320, consideration, review, and action on a petition submitted by Kyle and Rachel Caper for a certificate of appropriateness for repairs to the Soffit, Fascia, crown, eaves, and shutters on the east, west, south, and north sides of the home at 210 East Chestnut Street, the Lumen Burr House, Franklin Square Historic District, Federal and Queen Anne elements, 1864, architect Hayes and Evans Contracting Company in Ward 4. Just as a note, this has an addendum of BHP 2420, which would be a funk grant to accompany that certificate of appropriateness. So do we have, is Brad joining us? Oh, he's on the phone.
We have Mr. Williams and the property owners are on the phone.
Okay. Do you want to give the city report?
Sure. Okay, staff is recommending in favor of both the certificate of appropriateness and the funk grant. The home is located in our Franklin Square Historic District, which is one of Bloomington's oldest districts. The work being proposed is repair rather than replace, and when replacing, it will be replaced with a similar style wood and similar, I mean, as close as they can get to, you know, old growth wood, and then also a similar form, mass, and shaping. The work also is proposing to keep the original hardware and reuse that, and then restore the exterior elements of the fascia as well as the basement entrance. So the project is in line with our Secretary of the Interior standards. As I mentioned, it's a restoration project. It also is in line with our architectural review guidelines because the work proposed will be of a similar style and similar mass and form, and will be completed, you know, in a similar craftsmanship. Pretty short staff report. We're recommending in favor, and the applicant is, the total cost of work is $18,150. The applicant's requesting $5,000. $5,000 is the max amount. The project does not require prevailing wage since it's an owner-occupied home. You know, the commission, in cases of emergencies or extreme repairs, the commission can award more than $5,000 if requested, or if you choose to. And we've done that in the past on some emergency situations. So, but we're supportive of both the certificate of appropriateness and the funk grant.
Okay.
Okay, so we have both the petitioners and Mr. Williams with us. I need to swear you both in before you give testimony. So am I speaking with Kyle and Rachel, or can you unmute yourselves?
Hi, this is Kyle Caffrey, and I'm here with Rachel as well. Can you hear?
Hi, yes, I can. So if I could just ask you to state your name and your address.
Sure. Again, this is Kyle Capper and Rachel.
And Rachel Buer.
Okay. And your address?
And our address is 210 East Chestnut Street in Bloomington, Illinois, 61701.
Thank you very much. So you're about to give testimony before the Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. I know it's awkward over Zoom. And we'll do the same for Brad when it's time for Brad to speak. But if you'd like to address the commission about your proposal, you may do so.
So first, I just want to say thank you so much for letting us comment, and it's nice to virtually meet you all. So Rachel and I feel very fortunate to have moved into this beautiful house just a few months ago this summer. I'm sure you're all familiar with it, so I don't have to tell you kind of the history and everything behind it, but we are simply enjoying living in such a wonderful place, but looking to kind of restore and preserve it back to its original state as much as we can, and set out asking around wanting to start with the exterior, since try to protect it from the outside in, and asking around for the best person for the job. The overwhelming consensus response has been Brad Williams. So we reached out to Mr. Williams and reviewed some of the more major repairs that need to be done. Things, for example, where the roof is detaching from the front archway over the front door, where there are a few holes here and there. We submitted the laundry list of what needs to be done, but really just looking forward to being a steward of the property and trying to protect it for the future. And it's a 156-year-old gem, and we're really just trying to put it back in the best care that we can. I don't know, do you have anything to add?
No, that's, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Brad, are you with us?
Might be with us in spirit only.
I know. Brad, you're muted. If you'd like to speak, you'll need to unmute.
I believe it's *6.
*6. There you go.
Hey, I got it.
There you go. Great. So
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. I had to swear you in. Brad, state your name and address, please, sir.
Brad Williams, 613 East Grove, Bloomington, Illinois.
Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth in your presentation to the commission?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you so much. Do you want to talk about this proposal?
It just follows around the house. It starts with the east side, northwest, going counterclockwise, and ends up in the south. Let's see, repairing Soffit fascia crown, missing eave bracket on the east side, starts there on the southeast corner, and then moves around all of that stuff. They have some of the shutters that are missing. They're actually on the property, and we're going to rehang the first floor shutters on the north end. And then backing up just a touch, there's a main roof dormer that faces east. There's screen wire on the cornice returns, and we're going to remove that and install Nixolite. Evidently, if someone put screen wire up there to keep the birds from nesting on the cornice returns, it's fairly typical. And so we're going to try to replace that with something that looks a little bit nicer. And then moving around to the north side, we've got eave repair, north-facing eave repair, whatever needs to be done, what I can see from the ground. It varies in how much we need to do, and that's reflected in the price. And then also on the north side, there's 2 sets of outdoor basement bulkhead doors. Both of those we're going to replace the doors and the frames. West side, eave repair. There's a gable return on the north end of the gable return, crown and fascia repair, reinstall 1 shutter, and then a bit of a challenge is I'm going to make a couple of bronze bronze treble clef shutter dogs. So I'm going to try my hand at making those to match what's on the rest of the house. I just need to find some brass or bronze, I'm sorry.
Cool.
And we move on to the south end of the west side. There's a paneled frieze that needs to be reattached to the building, and reattach a bracket on the main roof soffit. There's south end of the gable repair. Eve returned molding with wood. There's a little hole. There's a little triangle on the return that's missing, and I'm going to make a little triangle for that. I've got that on there. And then on the south side, over the front door, repair the crown roof edge on the front door overhang. Reattach 2 shutters over the front door.
Okay.
I think that's it.
So Brad, is this something you're going to be doing before winter?
This is something that'll happen just after winter. We're going to get started on this just after winter.
Okay.
Will not happen in the winter, no. Probably looking at sometime in March to get started.
Okay, thank you.
Brad, it does look like then you'll be able to match all of the existing profiles and everything.
Mhm. Looks like
I looked at the profiles, and I actually may have some old growth crown to match one of the profiles. And then the other thing is, and there's another profile on there, and I think I have a knife to match that profile.
Excellent. So, I mean, it sounds like we're matching everything, matchy, making the repairs as necessary, which is excellent.
We're not changing any profiles on any of the moldings. There's a couple of different crown moldings. I think one of them is on the overhang for the front door. And the only other thing that I've thought of is something that really bothered me that we really never was not in the proposal was all of the shutters on that house are sagging. And I would like to take a stab at possibility of maybe even just putting a small turnbuckle on the back side of the shutter to re-square the shutters. What do you think of that? Or do you have any other suggestions?
I think sometimes you could take those down, throw them in a vise and kind of straighten them out, but you have to run a pin or something through them.
Right. I'm happy to do that too. I was possibly looking for suggestions to straighten those, keep them straight and keep them straight.
Yeah. Good luck and Godspeed.
I appreciate that.
Georgine or Sherry, do you have any questions?
Nope, they covered a lot.
Yep, this is quite a project and it's really neat to see. And Kyle and Rachel, if you're still hearing me, I'm telling you right now, you've got the best guy to do this. You got
Sure
good.
do.
This is in good hands. This will be beautiful when he's done with it. So you did a good job. He's worked on my house before a lot, so I know. I would be willing.
Great to hear.
I'd be willing to look at this as a special case situation since it's so immense, and possibly be looking to say up to the 9,075 deal for, in other words, half of that. So
Yeah, I'd be inclined as well because we recognize, sorry, I don't want to scare you, Kyle and Rachel, but we recognize this will not be the end of the work that you will be doing on this house. This will be, big opening salvo, but we imagine there'll be quite a bit more over the years. So I'd be amenable to that if there are others who are interested.
A question I would have
Go ahead.
before we went with adding some more dollars to that is, Brad, do you believe that there are any structural repairs or anything that's underneath the crown, anything that it's attached to that is also failing?
Well, the rafter tails, there's a possibility that some of them might have to be added onto, but I don't really consider that a major structural problem unless it becomes inside the building. The eaves overhangs, that's what they support. The tails on the rafters or the ceiling joist, depending on how they're built. I don't see any problems with any structural repairs on that building.
Oh, good.
Georgine?
Yes, I just had a question, I guess, for Mr. Williams. Is the work that he's talking about doing to straighten the shutters, is that, I'm assuming, but I don't know for sure, that's why I'm asking, is that going to entail more cost?
I'm not sure. It's just something that bothers me that I'd like to fix, and we just didn't discuss it until after everything was all written down, and it kind of depends on how I come out on my end. I mean, if I have extra money or I do okay on these other projects, happy to throw it in.
Okay.
I usually do. If I don't walk away with a pile of money if I don't do anything.
Okay.
I really like the idea that you guys have mentioned that you consider yourselves stewards for the long term of this building. And that is absolutely what this building requires and has for a long time. So I'm really thrilled that you're investing your dollars and time and energy into this building.
Well, thank you. We knew going in, we came in with open eyes that this building needed a little love. And over the course of our time here, we anticipate, as you said, it will not be the last project. It will maybe not even be the largest restoration that this house will need in hopefully our lifetime here. So we appreciate greatly the consideration of any assistance this commission is able to provide.
Thank you. Sherry, are you interested in making a motion? You mentioned a certain dollar. First, we need to do the certificate of appropriateness before we deal with the grant.
Right. Well, I would like to make a motion that we do it's case BHP 2320. To grant the certificate of appropriateness for the home at 210 East Chestnut Street.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Can we get a roll call on BHP 2320?
Yes. Ms. Chisholm?
Yes.
Ms. Grayling?
Yes.
Mr. Charnett?
Yes.
And Chairperson Klein.
Yes. Okay, so now we'll move on to the BHP 2420, which is the consideration review of the FUNK grant at 210 East Chestnut Street.
So with this, since it is $5,000, we don't have to deny that and then do another one that says what the larger amount, we can just substitute.
Correct.
That. Okay. Then I would like to make a motion to approve case BHP 2420 for the amount up to the, let's see, is it 9,000? I'm checking it here. It is 9,000.
Maybe before you make a motion, I have a question about
the
amount. My question is this: what makes this a special case? I'm concerned only that whatever we decide on this one is also precedent for future. So we just need to make sure that we're being very clear about why we believe that this is a special case.
In my mind, Paul, it's about scope. and about the kind of the replacement craftsmanship that, we're doing like for like, and that old growth wood is so expensive. And again, scope and the knowledge about the longevity of the house and how many more projects are coming. So that's for me.
And for me, it's all of that, but also this is a huge contributor to the Franklin Square local historic district. And it has been in decline for quite a while. And there was a good possibility that if somebody didn't buy it and do something, it was possibly going to be getting to the point where it would not be recoverable, which would have meant that we had a big empty instead of this building, which I would hate to see. So it's a huge contributor to that district.
So is responding to those comments. So there's some complexity that we're saying is important for the cost, and we believe that that's appropriate for it. And what is the point at which we believe that cost is important as a factor for saying this is appropriate? I guess where I'm going is, are there going to be future endeavors on this, even on this particular residence, that we would see $50,000 or $100,000 in cost, and we would say, okay, well, we can approve $10,000 toward that. That's all I'm trying to do, is just compare what amount are we saying is comfortable for future.
Yeah, one of my response to that, and just in short, is that what we sometimes see are people who take on partial project in order to afford it. And so the fact that they're doing all four sides of the house at the same time and kind of integrating that work with the same craftsman and the same kind of approach, for me, that what I think Sherry's going to suggest is 50%. So it's still under 10,000. But it's for me, because they're taking on all four sides of the house, where so many petitioners will just do two sides and then wait and then do two sides in the next fiscal year. So they're essentially getting that same amount of money, but this couple is doing all of it at once. And so it's something we would have covered if they spread it out, but they're not choosing to delay the work because I think of the severity of the problem. And so for me, that's my response.
That makes plenty of sense.
Also, we have historically done a couple of things, like we have that 5,000 situation, we could do up to 10,000, that sort of thing. We've made that kind of a deal, especially this year where we have not had as many applicants, and we're going to have a lot of extra money. And I would hate to see that a house of this importance, and it's an 1864 build too. I mean, it's a situation where if we don't treat this one well, it's not going to be around to do anything for. And so, yeah, I would like to, my whole idea would be to do up to the half of what they are actually looking for in proposed work, which would be, it still would put it below $10,000. It would be $9,075. But
I think it would be fair to say at a hard stop, whereas sometimes we say up to if there is extra cost, but at a hard stop at $9,075, I think would be fair.
Yes.
Because especially if Brad starts going, who knows what Brad will find to fix.
I think what we've done actually has been up to 10,000 on some of these. And so we're still stopping short of that. But this is a significant project, and I think it's going to make a heck of a lot of difference in this house.
Right.
So I would really like to see it done sooner rather than later. And it's already going to wait until the spring. Though I'm sure that Brad's probably going to be working on those clef things beforehand, but getting out on the building itself will be done in spring to start.
So Sherry, do you want to finish your motion that you began?
Yes, I would. So I would like to propose that for case BHP 2420, that we grant funds in the amount of up to $9,075 for that work.
You mean up to or just $9,075?
No, I guess not $9,075.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to second that?
Second.
Okay. Do you want to do a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Chisholm,
Yes.
Ms. Grayling,
Yes.
Mr. Charnett,
Yes.
and Chairperson Klein.
Yes. Okay. So Kyle and Rachel, so you will receive from the city a certificate of appropriateness for this work in the mail. And then you can follow up with Katie Simpson in terms of the reimbursement process after the work is complete. And we wish you Godspeed.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. We're
Thank you.
so surprised. Wonderful.
All right. Thank you so much. And make sure, as you know, in this commission, you've got lots of house lovers, but also an architect. So sometimes you get good free advice. So
Yeah.
never hesitate to stop in, especially when we're able to be in person again, to stop in and ask questions.
That sounds great. Yeah, we look forward to getting to know you all much better.
All right.
And, thank you again.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Okay. So Katie has added to our list item E, discussion, review, and action on the Rust grant guidelines to amend language for accessibility accommodations. Do you want to talk us through those?
Yeah, in your packet. So at our last meeting, you asked staff to come back with some suggested language for the Rust grant guidelines. We had the discussion about needing to make, or about opening up the grant to incorporate external accessible improvements on buildings. And so I've added that language in there, and in your packet, you have a copy of the guidelines with that language in track changes. And then while I was in there, I made some other changes just to, in the first page, taking out the reference to the amount of money because it varies. So that way we don't have to keep updating this. Also, just some spelling things that I saw and missing words. And then under the eligible improvements is where we added the language about the exterior improvements and accessible accommodations that extend the life of the building and enjoyment of the building. And then on the application process, I kind of, this is a little dated back. The process wasn't updated once once the city absorbed the downtown DBA, and I'm sorry, a few years ago, the DBA joined the city and we formed the Downtown Development Division. And so I have amended this to kind of reflect our current process. And then also the city recently changed the name of the Community Development Department to the Economic and Community Development Department, which is on your agenda a little bit later when Melissa introduces herself. But so those are incorporated into this text. And any additional amendments you'd like to make, please let me know.
I just have one thing that I think I'd like to see a change in the wording, and that's item L. And it says, so basically, after all necessary permits have been issued, work may proceed. All change orders must be approved by the city planner in writing, and may be referred to the Preservation Commission for additional review. I would say if we have changes at that point, it should be so, and will be referred to the Preservation Commission for review.
I might push back on that a little bit because I worry. I mean, I think there might be a way that we could reword that satisfies a bit more of a strict sense of overview. But I'm worried that if it's small things,
Right.
That we might encumber a process that people are coming back, waiting a month and coming back to us and creating substantial delays, but we might say something to the effect of, and substantial changes may be referred back, or substantial changes will be referred back, or something that
Right.
that catches the idea of large,
Right.
large revelations or changes or something could be referred back. But I would hate for it to be perceived as something that minute, small things, and that
Right.
might discourage people, Sherry, from sharing those if they know that they're going to get delayed.
I agree with that. It could be a major, or it also, you could say, or, to refer to the Preservation Commission or a subcommittee thereof for additional review, or something where you could just get one or two people to look at it and go, is this important? Isn't it important? I don't know. So one way or the other, at least to make it so that there is something that could be done if we had to, substantive changes maybe.
And I think the difficulty is always in qualifying substantive changes, right?
Yeah.
But I can add a little bit of clarity to some of that. In public contracts, for instance, there's sort of just general statutes that are written for a lot of those things. If they exceed, for instance, 25% of the project value, then it automatically kicks back and we have to go into some of those situations. In the case where it would be a bidding situation, if it exceeds 50% of the project value, we automatically have to go back to a rebidding process. So there are some kind of hard stop measures that we could just sort of say, if it exceeds 50%, it comes back to the commission. If it exceeds 25%, it goes to a committee or a subcommittee.
Yeah.
And anything else underneath that, the city can take care of it. That's
okay.
I think that's a possibility. There's another possibility too. So currently, as the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission, any demolition permit that is of a structure of over 50 years comes to me for individual approval with the city suggestion. And that means everything from like old pool houses and, sort of anything that's 50 years old or older. And so most of those things are not of historic value. They're not in historic districts. They're not contributing to anything, but there's still my eyes that are on that. And then I can either say, yes, go ahead, or no, I want to bring it to the commission. So that might be another way that empower the chair to put eyes on the change, to either say, yes, this is small enough that I think it's okay, or no, this is not small enough, we need to bring it to the commission. Because that process already exists in the city, and that would mean that at least someone from the commission is putting eyes on it and not just giving the full load of that responsibility to city planner to make that judgment. In other words, Paul, of is this substantial, or is this something minor that would just get, it would just delay it to bring it back to the whole commission. I don't know if that would be acceptable to you.
My concern only with that is we had that thing fall through the crack and earlier that was over in Dimmitt's Grove Historic District. And I would hate to see something like that happen. So I think we need to have some more way of having a fail-safe kind of situation in place.
Maybe have two members sign off on it. We've made some changes.
So.
We've made some changes to make sure that something like that doesn't ever happen again. So there are now some systemic differences, but maybe to have two different commissioners sign off on it.
Yes,
that would be,
maybe that would be a thing. Yeah. So I mean,
the chair and vice chair.
Yeah.
The chair and vice chair.
Yeah.
I don't know, Katie, if you can find a way to write that in, that that they should be reported to the city planner, and that can the chair and the vice chair be considered a subgroup? Can be considered a sub what was the word?
Yeah,
like subcommittee.
Subcommittee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, and just say in a subcommittee of the Historic Preservation Commission will review.
Do you want to designate them by saying chair and sub?
The chair and
and
sub chair. You're the sub chair. Yeah, the chair and the vice chair. The chair and the vice chair for approval, something like that. Yeah, because I mean, it won't be. This isn't about me, but I just thinking that there's already that process in place for the chair. So the chair and sub chair.
Are we looking at adopting the language today is that, the reason I'm asking is because I know Giselle said she had a 6:15 deadline.
Well, with my future conversation here about ADA, I don't think we'll be adopting language.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, because I think we'll lose our quorum at that point.
And Georgine has left. So are we out of quorum now?
Oh,
We still have a quorum. We have
Because
4
Ann-
people.
Yeah, and
how many do
Bailen.
you have?
No, I'm sorry. We have three members, but we only have 5 on the commission right now. So we do have a majority
Okay.
of the actual members.
And Bailen has stepped down. So that's the critical information.
I see.
So what kind of language do we need to put in there then, instead of what it is? So just say, may be referred to the Preservation Commission for additional, or will be referred to the Preservation Commission for additional review, or a subcommittee thereof, consisting of those 2 people.
Can you clarify too, is the subcommittee reviewing everything or just substantial changes?
I would think everything, so we
Remember
don't
that was
have
the problem.
things go through the
About
cracks.
what substantial meant. So.
Yeah, I think the chair and I keep saying sub-chair, the chair and the vice chair are the ones who would make the call about whether it's substantial. And they wouldn't necessarily, I mean, because currently, like as I say, my process is, do I say yes and let it go? Or do I say it's too substantial of an issue, it needs to go to the commission to review?
Right.
So it would be the chair and the vice chair who say, this is small enough that it's okay. They would make the substantial decision. They would make the decision about substantial change.
So then I guess I would recommend, the original language was after all necessary permits have been issued, work may proceed. All change orders must be approved by, I would say, the city planner, the vice chair and chair in writing, period. And then changes may be referred to the Preservation Commission for additional review. I'm spitballing here, but
maybe submitted to the.
yeah, something like that to kind of give, the process is that anything is submitted to the city then forwards that to the chair and the vice chair, and then the 3 say,
Yes.
this is too big. We uncovered a certain type of facade. This is a big change. Okay.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that would.
just with respect to the subcommittee, if we do have a quorum of 3, subcommittee of 2 is a majority of a quorum. There's a possibility that could involve Open Meetings Act issues if there's a meeting or a contemporaneous discussion. I don't know if that would need to be the case. It could be maybe somebody'd send it off to the other, but I'd want to look into that. I guess Paul said you're going to have some changes such that we won't be adopting changes tonight, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I'd like to,
George,
I know that with respect to some 5-person situations, where a quorum is 3, there may be some times when the Open Meetings Act wouldn't apply. Well, I'd like to check into that.
So this would also be in regards to a grant that has already been previously approved by the commission, and they're just doing work. So it's not like there is a pending application or a pending agenda item.
Yeah. I was thinking it would be something if they did uncover something where they went, oh my God, now this just throws everything off. And then, what do you do with it? So, and things like that happen.
Well, a great example might be what happened on Front Street.
Yes.
That's why we're doing this. Yeah, is that should have come back to the commission to discuss what was the next step. But we didn't have this policy in place, so.
Right.
I'm sorry, so just since that's in the case that the property owner is still pursuing funding, right? Something of that magnitude, because they don't have to have our approval to do these projects downtown. It's just as long as we're giving them money. So this is more of, if you still want funding to be eligible for funding, then you may need to bring it back to the commission.
Right, because they have to give notification. I mean, they have to give you the receipts, right? And if we see that there was, in the case of Front Street, we could have said, well, you didn't come back to us with that major change. And so now the funding is at issue. So
Right.
acknowledging that ahead of time, that the funding may be imperiled if you find major contributing historical, materials or structure or whatever, and you don't seek secondary permission to complete the project, the initial project, right?
Yeah.
So what were your ADA issues, Paul?
Well, I'm looking at the language here. It says permanent exterior accessible accommodations is needed to extend the life, safe use and enjoyment of the building. The challenge that I have with that particular language is that it's very broad. And you could start talking about parking lots at that point. I mean, if
Yeah.
like there are some pieces in here that I just really think we need to be very specific about. Are we talking about accessible path of travel? Are we talking about an approachable entrance? Are we talking about something that's happening from, okay, now we have accessible door handles and knobs and all those sort of things. There are some pieces that no matter what were required to be resolved back in 1994, following or pursuant to the requirements of the 91 ADA. Particularly the Accessible Barrier Removal Act. What that did is it sort of compelled owners and business owners and anybody who is operating to the public to remove as many accessible barriers as possible. So an example of something that was readily achievable, doorknobs that were round, for instance, needed to be changed to something that was a lever type. So my concern in all of this is just that we're very, very clear in the language that we're saying we're approving very specific things and it must be the building proper. It can't just be something that's around on the street or whatever. And then another question that does pop up is what happens around accessible entrances that you can't just fix it at the building. You have to throw something at the sidewalk, for instance, and raise the sidewalk up or add a little ramp or whatever.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Charnett, I think you were not here last week. That's right.
It's all my fault. I know I should have been.
The discussion, the reason it's coming forward is because, we've had some requests from downtown property owners to be able to use the grant to add or to fix the property, to make it more accessible. And we've kind of had this conversation in the past about elevators and things. But since the commission since our downtown is on the National Register of Historic Places, by tying those improvements to the grant, it gives the commission a level of oversight to ensure that you're not, widening doors or making improvements that are going to compromise the structure's integrity. So that's kind of the background as to how this was placed on the agenda last time. So any additional comments are welcome. I just wanted you to have that background.
Yeah, I certainly understand. And I think that it's a very noble approach. We do need to be talking about accessibility. What I would add is that this is actually one of the more appropriate commissions to be talking about accessibility because there are exemptions for historic structures.
Right.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I think we're bringing this up. And Paul, and I think the language, I want your suggestion for revised language, but I think in some ways, the wisdom of a little bit of openness is not going to hurt us because this would only apply if the owner of the property came to us and asked for money, then we would determine the scope of our capacity to fund. Do you see what I mean? So I think in the case, we're talking about Lucas where they put this kind of hard exterior thing. And we talked about the Democratic headquarters on Main Street, that there's just no capacity to do that in the front. So they actually had to put a ramp in the alley in the back. And that's, it meets bare minimum, but it's really, it's not very attractive. And so it would kind of give us some input, but it would only apply if they came and asked for money And then we could define the scope of what we were willing to allow or willing to fund at that time. So I don't know if that changes your calculus at all.
Well, the other piece that sort of becomes part of this calculation is that anytime you mess with accessibility, it has to be reviewed by an architect. So anything that would come would need to have some sort of drawing or need to have some sort of information that is prepared by a licensed structural engineer or architect. Without that information and how it would apply, I would be a little bit concerned. The piece that's really coming to my head is parking lots. And here's why. The Illinois Accessibility Code, that was adopted in 2018, that was finally approved in 2018 after waiting 6 years. Anyway, they created some language in there that if you just restripe a parking lot, now you're forced to comply, or you're compelled to comply with all of these additional curb ramps and accessible routes and things. So it immediately triggers a lot of stuff. Now I understand we're talking about downtown. We don't have a whole lot of parking lots that we're really dealing with, but there are some accessible route language pieces that I'm very nervous about. So one of the more important things is that my language suggestion is that we talk a little bit about a means by which the altered area may be approached, entered, and exited. And that sort of qualifies, it's touching the building, it's on the exterior envelope, it's allowing you to mess with some of these entrances, but we're not getting into things that are elevators, for instance.
Do you think, thank you for that information about if it's going to be an ADA compliant issue that they actually have to have a registered architect sign off? I mean, should we put some language in this and say, and professional fees associated with, that, because that might be a barrier, to the average business, florist wouldn't know that. And if we could, with the additional monies, help pay for the services of an architect to bring them into compliance, that might get them over the hump.
Yeah, I'm all for it, but I'm the wrong person to ask about that.
That's already actually in this. On page 2, we have an additional $20,000 to pay for costs associated with, the structural inspections or architectural rendering.
Okay, great. Thank you. I didn't see that little bit, but I think that would be good, because I think that the average business person is not a professional in this and would be put off by the complexity of that whole process, and to know that there's some funding there for that, I think would, once we're getting the word out about this is something that's an aspect of this to talk about with the DBA about letting the businesses know that it's not just the structural work, but also the planning, the necessary planning to bring you into ADA compliance would also be supported by the grant.
So Katie, following your comment there on page 2, it specifically only talks about structural inspections, analysis, and reporting of building to determine its safety and structural integrity. I would add to that accessibility somewhere in that. And safety, a structural inspection, there's also a health and life safety inspection that would go along with that, an accessibility survey.
What's the specific language, Paul?
So I might say associated with a structural inspection, health, life safety survey, or accessibility survey, analysis and reporting of building to determine its safety, structural integrity, or accessibility.
Thank you so much for that, Paul. Are any other questions or concerns or additions? I know, Katie, you're going to go back and zhuzh it all up and bring it back to us, but is there anything else?
Do we need to bring it back, or is the commission comfortable acting on it with the amendments you've discussed tonight? What would you like us to do?
I'm not sure if I would need to, because of the language that I just proposed, it benefits me as a business owner. if I would need to recuse myself for that particular.
And we don't have a quorum without you. So good point. So we should bring this back next time. Is that okay,
Yeah.
Katie?
Yeah.
Thank you for your honesty. Okay, so that gets us through that. And the next thing on our agenda is old business. Nothing is listed as old business.
I have some old business items. It might start to overlap into old or to new business, but I certainly don't intend it to. Okay, in previous conversations, we have talked a little bit about the potential to have the Illinois Energy Conservation Code impact historic buildings. I just sort of wanted to report that I had presented some information to the Building Board of Appeals because they are adopting formally the 2018 Illinois Energy Conservation Code, and my hesitation about how that impacts particularly residential historic structures. And my whole point in that was just to say the onus of who is responsible for determining whether this will be threatening or damaging to the historic fabric of a building is pretty unclear, and it could be on the homeowner, which I don't know a whole lot of homeowners who know a lot about historic preservation, and that's a very concerning element to me. The only other check on that is that it would be the inspector or somebody at the city, which means that somebody has to be trained at the city to be historically or to review these things from a historic accuracy standpoint, which is adding a lot of expense and time onto the city staff. So I was very nervous about that language, and I expressed that to the Board of Appeals. They were going to review that. There's some language with the state that provides some exemptions and exceptions. I had since talked with Chris McAllister about how those might apply. It seems that they're making some headway with the building board to review that language and create some additional exceptions. The same would be said about commercial properties. You could still do that as a building owner. And again, my concern is that a building owner doesn't necessarily always know the historic impact of what they're doing. And I'm not discrediting, there are plenty that do, but there's also a lot of information out there that's totally wrong. And there's a reason that people pay experts, right? Okay. The other part I wanted to add was the demolition through neglect ordinance that we were discussing. I presented information to both the Building Board of Appeals, and it was actually Bob at the time, and he presented it to the Property Maintenance Committee. Since then, I met with Kelby of the Property Maintenance Committee, and we discussed how some of that language might look. He and I are going back and forth. We're going to have a couple more lunches to look at how that might best be implemented. And of course, we'll bring that to both commissions for approval and review. We just wanted to start that ball rolling.
Very good. Thank you so much for following up on all of those things.
Yep.
Thank you. Is there any other old business? Okay, well, we'll move on to new business. And the first item is, of course, our introduction to our new capo, as they say in Italian, our new head, Melissa.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to briefly introduce myself for those of you that I have not met. And just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I have been with the City of Bloomington since 2016 and worked for the City of Peoria for 15 years prior to that in the Community Development Department. And started out at the City of Bloomington in administration and was given an opportunity to head up the new Economic Development Department when that was created back in 2019. And with Bob's retirement, was given the opportunity once again to head up this new combination of the Economic and Community Development Department. And we're really looking forward to bringing those two departments together and helping to streamline the development process for residents and commercial businesses in the community. So I look forward to continuing to work with all of you, and I'm available by phone or email if anybody ever needs to get a hold of me.
All right. Thank you so much. Welcome,
Thank you.
Melissa.
Yes.
Welcome,
So-
welcome.
So just quickly, for new business, I wanted to just update you with something I have said already, but that Ann Bailen has resigned her position on the commission. But the good news is, Ann is a real estate person, so it's one of the kind of pockets of specialty that we need on the commission is a lawyer, a architect, and real estate. And so we already have a real estate agent who has been interested in this for a long time, who is putting in her application sort of now. So that position will be hopefully replaced without much delay. And secondly, in the upcoming city council's consent agenda is the approval of Mr. Greg Coos onto our commission. As we've talked about, we are lacking a lawyer, and so we're one down, and we still haven't resolved that because Greg is not a lawyer. But as you know, there is a real possibility that I won't be on the commission for much longer. And so I wanted, in advance of that, to make sure that I didn't set us up in a situation where we had no people on the commission. So I wanted to kind of get some full membership back. And then I think we can work on the lawyer piece, or you can work on the lawyer piece later. But especially during this planning process that we're going through, it would be a very sad thing to have a diminished commission during that process. And if you don't know, Mr. Coos was the director of the the History Museum forever, and was on this. He was actually a beginning member. Is that right, Katie? He was on the initial Historic Preservation Commission. So he's been on this before and did not hesitate to have the opportunity to come back and to serve. So we've got a really, really knowledgeable person coming with us here pretty soon.
Couldn't be a better choice.
Right.
If there's anybody who knows history around here, it's Greg.
It's Greg, right? So
He's
that's a really
literally writing the book on it.
literally right, and is doing it again. So it's great. So at least next time we will be down and still, but we'll have Greg, and then at some point or another, you'll have another real estate agent, and then you'll have a chance to find a lawyer. If anybody knows a lawyer who's
keep on the look.
A lawyer who's bored and wants to needs to serve some community service. For some reason, there are just not that many who are interested as they once were. But anyway,
Well,
I just wanted to let you know.
I was going to say, I'm on the Bar Association History Committee, so maybe there'll be
Whoa, there you go, George. You're holding out on us.
You go. That's all I can say.
You can tell them that we're a delightful bunch. And
Oh,
that
yeah.
they should join us. Find us a
I
lawyer.
can say that.
Might be delightful. I'm just ridiculous.
We try to be nice, but yeah, I just, I don't know when I'll be leaving, but I didn't want to leave us in a lurch. So it seems a little bit out of step to put in the replacement for me before the lawyer, but it was safer that way for the integrity of the commission, I thought. So,
Yeah.
anyway.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any new business? I say anybody else as if there's so many of us. Like 3 of us.
I can, just to give you a quick update, we will be bringing the draft State of the City report to the commission for review. I'll be sending that out to you with the, as part of our preservation plan process.
Okay.
We wait with bated breath.
If there isn't any other business, I'll entertain a motion.
I will move to adjourn the meeting.
I second that.
Okay. Can we have a verbal? Because it's just 3 of us. No, we got to do it.
Well, the rule is you're supposed to do it roll call, but there have been many commissions who just do it by voice, and no one's claimed that they're still in session.
Okay, good. So I agree. So now all 3 of us agree. All right.
Here we go.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure to meet you, Melissa. Take care.
Thanks.